making sense common again. It's your host, David Knight.
Well, it's November the 1st, 2017. I'm David Knight, and we will be, of course, talking about what happened yesterday in New York City. Lionel is very close to where that happens, where he lives. He's going to be joining us talking about what he was an eyewitness to and commenting on what happened. Of course, we're going to look at what happened. We've got some B-roll footage, but we also have some comments and reactions that I think you're going to find very interesting. Also, the immigration issues as to how he came into this country, I think you're going to find very interesting. A program that really hasn't gotten very much attention and really should get a lot of attention. And of course, we have some updates on the Vegas shooting. We have some updates on medical marijuana even, and also updates on the Mueller investigation. It turns out there's a very strong case for shutting this down on legal terms. He doesn't have to be fired. He never was legitimately hired. And this is coming on top of the issues that show Mueller's involvement with Russian collusion and with collusion with Hillary Clinton to cover up and to conspire with high officials in the Obama administration to conceal information that would have and should have shut down the Uranium One deal. So we're going to give you that information, something you need to be aware of. Something that the American public needs to push President Trump on, and we need to start this as an information campaign. You know, in the wake of Halloween last night, we had Donald Trump Jr. joke about swiping his daughter's candy in order to teach her about socialism. That's the way it's reported by Politico. They were outraged by this. They thought it was terrible. They said, look at this. He's stealing his daughter's candy. Well, he was trying to teach her a lesson about socialism. He says, I'm going to take half of Chloe's candy tonight and give it to some kid who's sit at home. It's never too early to teach her about socialism. And I kind of think that's funny. I did something similar. My wife and I, when we had our kids were young and they were doing trick-or-treating, they would get the candy, and as they would start to eat it, take it out of the wrapper, we would take it away from them just as they were about to take a bite and say, sorry, I'm going to take my 50% government tax cut. So, you know, when you take the 50%, you call it government tax cut, or you can call it socialism, because that's going that way either way. One is how it's being spent, but either way, that half of that is being taken from them. So that kind of taught them a lesson, especially when they were really young. Eat half of their candy bar and then give it back to them. Earlier, he had also joked about Hillary Clinton, his father's former electoral foe, they say, for joking, saying that she was at a book signing appearance, and she said she was going to trick-or-treat the president. And when I saw that, my thought was, well, that's about as close as she's ever going to get to being president. But he said that he would loan her his mask of his father so she could identify as that. And, you know, when you're talking about cross-dressing, we have a judge blocking Trump's ban on transgender troops in the military. And we didn't report on this yesterday. There was other news there, but that happened on Monday. They temporarily blocked everything that he does. That's a standard operating procedure for judges. And I think that if you look at this judge's name, I haven't looked up her background, but most likely a Democrat judge, Judge Colleen Collar-Cotley of the Federal District Court for the District of Columbia, found the administration's justification for the ban to be suspect and likely unconstitutional. She said, I think he disapproves of transgender people in general. So you see, it's a ruling, again, based on rulings and feelings and impressions and motives of the president. But what about the law? Does that ever enter into the rulings of these judges? Not really. She did make one attempt to say that, I think this might violate the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. Well, what about all the people who are classified 4F because they're not physically capable of doing the job? Or the people who are ruled out because they have psychological issues. Does equal protection apply to that? No, you don't have to think about that too long. It doesn't. So she doesn't have a leg to stand on. But somehow we continue to pretend that every judge in the world has more power than the president. This has to end, and we have to end these judges. We need to make it easier to impeach and remove them. I'm David Knight. We'll be right back. It's Wednesday, November the 1st, 2017. Everyone has heard about the terror attack, I'm sure by now, in New York City. We're going to be looking at what happened, who this individual is, how he got here. Very important revelations about our immigration laws as to how this guy got here. And, of course, the reactions from the press. The people who, as I saw last night, the things that made me outraged were the idea that, another vehicle terror attack. No, another Islamic terror attack. Or the Allah Akbar, all the translations of Allah Akbar saying, God is great. No, what they're saying is Allah is greater than your God. That's the point. That's why these guys say this. So we're going to take a look at Jake Tapper and the other mainstream media idiots who continue to lie about what's going on and continue to tell us that we have to shut down our society because now they're here. And we can't have any say-so about not bringing more of these people in. That's what we're going to be looking at with this specific program that allowed him to come here as a legal immigrant. The article said, well, we're sure that the FBI and Homeland Security are looking into his background now. It's like, well, maybe you should have done that before he came into the country. Maybe you should do that rather than taking away our freedoms and having us live under a police state. But no, that's precisely what they want. They want to bring in dangerous individuals from countries that they hold these diversity immigration lotteries. That's the program under which he came in. These diversity lotteries. Well, guess what? It's a lottery, and you just lost if you're an American, because these people are going to be brought in. They're going to be dangerous. And then as they kill you, the government will come back and say, well, we need more of your freedoms to be handed over to us so we can make you safe. So we're going to take a look at that. We've got a lot of clips. Before we do, real quickly, I want to give you some of the other news that is on the headlines. As we look at the Black Death that is spreading through Madagascar, and of course that's an island off the coast of Africa, very interesting creatures. You look at the chameleons that have the eyes that move and independent of each other in different directions. They only come from that one island. And now we've got something that we hope stays on that island, and that's the Black Death Plague. And one of the reasons that it's getting into epidemic proportions there is because of a cultural issue. They have a tradition where they dig up dead bodies of relatives, and as part of a ritual, they dance with them. This is beyond belief. Someone needs to have an education program about germs and contamination with these people, but it's absolutely beyond belief. As a matter of fact, there's a story. I'm not sure if it's true or not. Anybody who listens to the Bible, reads the Bible, studies the Bible, one of the things that the Apostle Paul said, who will save me from this body of death? And some commentators have said, well, that may be a reference to a tradition in the area where he had lived, where if you were a criminal who had murdered somebody, once they found that you were guilty, what they would do is they would tie that dead body to you. And that would ultimately be a death sentence because you would not be able to get away from that. So when we look at this, and when we look at people who are coming from countries like this that have certain traditions, it's legitimate for us to vet them because of their culture, because of their religion, because of their traditions, and to vet them for disease, isn't it? But we don't do any of that because that would be politically incorrect. It's about time we bury political correctness before it kills us all. Bitcoin, meanwhile, has blasted to a new all-time high of $6,450. I find that interesting. Again, when you look at things like Bitcoin denominated in dollars or gold denominated in dollars, what you're looking at here is people's confidence not only in that instrument to contain their wealth, but you're also looking at their confidence in the dollar. And so there's not a lot of confidence in the dollar for many good reasons. And when we look at the value of currencies, and when we look at what is happening, what is being pushed on us in terms of, we used to call it Agenda 21, but the UN has now a more specific time frame for that. They have it, it's not just sometime in the 21st century. They've put a target date on it, 2030. UN Agenda 2030, the agenda for sustainability. And guess what their plan for sustainability is? Look, you can see it in Hong Kong right now. The poor in Hong Kong are living in homes that are smaller than prison cells, says a study in The Guardian. They say the average living space for people in Hong Kong was only 50 square feet, the equivalent of just half of a parking space. And this was a survey of 204 families in one neighborhood by Local Residents Association. This is the world's most expensive housing market. An average resident would need to save more than 18 years of pre-tax salary, spending that money on nothing else in order to afford a home. Understand that what they want to do with you is they want to make housing more expensive. They want to take away your ownership of your home. They want to take away the ownership of vehicles, everything. You're going to be a sharecropping serf or slave. That's the vision that they have for your future, for your children's future, your grandchildren's future. That's the way they want you to live. You're not going to have any upward mobility. As a matter of fact, you're not going to have any mobility at all. You'll be trapped in these cities. They will have the mobility, the few elitists that will run this system. You'll be trapped in micro apartments like this, 200 square feet or less. And it's already happening in some of the biggest cities. You can see what is happening. And cities have always been a threat, as Jefferson said, to the health, the wealth, and the liberty of man. And you can see that now, and Agenda 21 wants to trap us into that situation. If you look at urban planners who have for decades pushed against building any roads as they constantly promoted their public transportation schemes that nobody wants, the buses that are empty, the light rail boondoggles that they have everywhere, and the toll roads that they're now starting to put in because they won't add any lanes unless they're going to be toll roads. And when you look at that, you understand, and we've had, was the CEO of Lyft, used to be an urban planner, and he spelled it all out. Yes, cars are evil because they give you mobility, but cities are wonderful. The only problem with cities is that they've got cars that allow people to escape them. You know, people wanted to get out of the cities. That's why you had the suburbs, but they call it urban sprawl, and they don't want to build the roads. And now they don't want you to have the cars, and they don't want you to own anything. And the way this is going to happen here is the same way it was happening in Hong Kong. One of the reasons that the homes are getting smaller and smaller is because of Chinese investments in the property market that have happened, of course, in Hong Kong. But it's going to happen here as well. They are accumulating all of the money, all of the wealth, and they're going to use it to buy up everything. And then, of course, you're also going to have to pay taxes that you won't be able to afford. So you'll have to have, you won't be able to afford a home. The American dream is going to go away because you're going to be paying taxes for dreamers to get a free education at your expense because their home country refuses to pay for their education. I'm talking about you, Mexico, specifically. You encourage your citizens to come here to get a free education. You work with them to avoid our immigration laws, and then you are active politically. And that's one of the reactions we're going to take a look at. And that's that dirty commercial that was run in the Virginia gubernatorial race showing supporters of the Republican governor with "Don't Tread on Me" bumper stickers and so forth, running down these poor dreamers. No, we're the ones who are being run down by people. And we can see this yesterday. And that's how they always do that. They always flip reality. They always invert reality. And that's what they did in that commercial. They have now temporarily pulled that commercial, but we've already seen how they're trying to spin reality. And if you understand what's going to happen with this, it's going to be two things that are going to happen. First of all, and there's some of that commercial there, we're going to play that and talk about that later. But you're going to have things go up in price because of foreign investors who are coming in trying to dump their dollars very quickly before they lose money. That's why I started out with Bitcoin going to $6,400. So these Chinese investors who are trying to get rid of the petrodollar, they're even coming up with the petro yuan, they want to get something for their money. They're going to get American property. That's going to make it expensive for you. And then the taxes are going to push you out of your house and into a teeny tiny apartment because taxes are attached to the apartments that you rent as well. Stay with us. We'll be right back. I'm David Knight. Welcome back. I'm David Knight. It's November the 1st, 2017. We're going to take a look at what happened in New York, who this guy is, reactions from the media. That's going to be right after I tell you about the new products that we've put on sale at InfoWarsStore.com. For a limited time, we have put DNA Force. That's one of our premium products. Very expensive to manufacture, and we have taken it to 25% off at InfoWarsStore.com. We also have 25% off of Biome Defense 50. This is our live probiotic cultures, 23 different strains that are known to support digestion and intestinal function. Your gut health plays a massive role in the normal function of your immune system. It's home to over 100 million neurons and brain neurotransmitters, often called your second brain, due to the direct link between the brain and the digestive system. This product is made in the U.S. It is a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility. We lab test it for quality. You won't find this kind of quality and probiotics at this price anywhere else. And now you can get it for 25% off. A great way to protect your gut health. That's Biome Defense 50. That's also at InfoWarsStore.com. And I'll just remind you of the other sales that we have put on this last week. Silver Bullet, Winter Sun, both of those are 50% off. Silver Bullet, of course, is our colloidal silver product. And Winter Sun is our vitamin D supplementation. Both of those are 50% off. And for a limited time, you can get 16% off of Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink Mix at checkout when you enter the code VITA10, VITA 10. That's 16% off Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink with the checkout when you enter the code VITA10. Let's take a quick look at what happened and who this individual is. Let's start out with video number 6. This is an eyewitness talking about what he saw after the attack. Bodies with tire tracks on them.
And I was walking down towards World Trade Center when I'm on West Street walking, and I'm getting ready to cross the street because the light was taking a long time. And I said to myself, wow, this light's taking a long time. All the cars are flying by. So when the light finally changed, I get to the middle of the street, I hear a commotion. I hear a girl screaming, top of her lungs. And I'm like, oh, it's Halloween. Maybe somebody's spooked. But I said, you can't be spooked like that to be screaming the way they're screaming. So when I go back to the sidewalk, I look down and I see a white pickup truck like a couple more blocks down in the bike path. So automatically I know something's wrong. And then as I go down more to where the girl is screaming, I see two gentlemen laying there, and they have tire track marks across them, body. One guy, you know, you could tell they both weren't here. So while I'm looking to see if anybody else was injured, or, you know, maybe somebody needs help. For some reason I went back that way. I don't know why. I kept walking down, and when I heard more people screaming, running across the bridge over here, I started hearing gunshots, 9 to 10 gunshots. So, and I only seen 2 cops, and they were ducked down, like hiding, trying to get out the way. So I'm assuming that the guy that was driving crazy got out, started shooting. That's the only thing I could think of.
So you actually saw the truck coming down the wrong way on the bike path and actually hitting people.
I didn't see them actually hit the people. I seen the
just heard the scream.
Yeah, I heard the girl screaming. She must have seen it like me and you standing this close together to make her scream that way.
And did you see when the truck actually came to a stop?
No, I didn't see when it stopped. But when I went down more, I seen a yellow school bus in the middle of Chambers. The whole front, the whole middle was smashed in, and then the pickup truck hit another car. And that's when he stopped, and that's when he got on, I guess, was shooting.
Can you describe that moment? That's obviously preliminary information. We're not sure if he was shooting, but can you describe that moment when the truck actually stopped after going the wrong way on the West Side Highway?
You hear, once all the screaming stopped, you hear the gunshots. I heard 9 to 10 gunshots, and that's when I was ducking out the way because I don't know what's going on. And then you see all the police, all the undercover cops, all the ESU, all of them running this way because they don't even know what's going on. All they know is shots are fired. They didn't even know the bodies were there. I was like, look, these guys, their bodies are here. They're like, what happened? What happened? I said, a guy was driving down the bike lane, running people over.
And what happened after those shots were fired? You see that man out of the car. What did you see then next?
I see all the police ran that way. All the police were there already, and all the screaming and yelling and running stopped. So I was allowed to walk more down West Street. When I got there, I seen the bus crash. I seen the pickup truck was crashed into another car. What was happening in the middle, I didn't see the commotion in the middle there.
So you didn't get a glimpse of his demeanor?
No, I didn't see his face. I didn't see nothing of him.
What are you thinking, knowing what's happened all around the world, seeing that truck go the wrong way?
I thought automatically in this area, I thought it was terrorists. You know, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a nice day. People in the park and somebody driving on the sidewalk. Yeah, I mean, I guess with everything going on in the world, everybody's automatically thinks it's a terrorist attack. I'm not sure what's going on. I still don't know what happened. I just been talking to reporters since it all happened.
And as far as the people that
all right, let's hold it at that point here. And of course, we shouldn't jump to any conclusions, as we were told over and over again on social media. People being lectured on social media. Don't jump to any conclusions. It's you shouldn't assume that this is Islamic terror. You shouldn't assume that this has anything to do with immigration. Shame on you for saying that. And we had all the newspapers telling us he got out shouting Allah Akbar. Well, actually, it was Allahu Akbar, which is saying Allah is greater. But they would translate it as God is great. And we're going to talk about what Jake Tapper and James Clapper are trying to push in the wake of this. But again, what happened? Well, as he got out, and some of the people that he's talking about being run over with that, these were 5 friends from Argentina, 8 people killed, 2 Americans, 1 Belgian woman, and 5 friends from Argentina were those who were killed. We still have one of the children who was hurt in the school bus in critical condition. So we're still waiting to see what the final casualties are on that. That happened about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. A pickup truck rented from a retailer, Home Depot, struck cyclists and pedestrians driving along the West Street, Houston Street path for many blocks. It then hit a school bus, injured 2 adults, 2 children on board, came to a halt. The driver jumped out, appearing to hold 2 handguns, but we now find out that these were a paintball gun and a pellet gun. The shots were the shots that were being fired by the police. One officer shot him in the abdomen, and he has now been arrested, and they will be examining him. And I heard people saying, well, you know, they don't have a death penalty in New York. And my first response was, send him to Texas. We'll take care of it for you. As a matter of fact, we'd have people lined up down the block to be able to take this guy out. But I think it's going to be a federal crime because I think it's terrorism. They put it, it's obviously terrorism. The guy left a note, left his message there. So he'll get his death wish, but it'll be on our terms, on our time frame. And we will make it nice and slow for him. And he'll get his day in court, as it should be. And I think that he will be executed for this terrorist event. If justice is done, he will. And then, of course, we have all of the reports from places like the Daily Mail saying the terrorist's new weapon of choice, or many others say now it's vehicle terrorism. Well, no, actually, it's not the vehicles and the trucks that are killing people. They always want to blame the instrument. They always want to say, well, we got to ban vehicles. We got to ban guns. We got to put pylons in areas. We got to block cars out of here. We can't have cars in the city. So ban the cars, take the cars away. Now, why don't you vet these people before you let them in the country? And if you can't vet them, you don't let them come in as immigrants. It's just that simple. We didn't have this problem until you started the massive importation of the Middle East into our country. And of course, Obama wants people that look like him and also hate the country like he does. Welcome back. I'm David Knight on this September. It's now November the 1st. It's going very quickly, isn't it? We're going to take a look at who this murderer is. This murderer for Islam. That's his motivation, folks. I'm not putting words in his mouth. Let's take it for what it is. Let's forget about the political correctness here. Let's confront the cold reality of this so we can do something about it. I'm not interested in dancing around this, tap dancing softly, and trying not to hurt anybody's feelings, okay? If Islam wants to reform itself, go for it. We've had a lot of major changes in Christianity in the last 500 years. There should always be a re-examination of what any religion is about. And it's about time that Islam had a reformation, had a self-examination. And if you guys don't want to be criticized about this stuff, then fix it. Because I'm not going to give you any excuses. I had enough of this. I think all of us have. And I've had enough of the political correctness coming from the left. We need to get serious about this, and we need to do something about this. This is why President Trump was elected. This was the key issue behind President Trump. To make sure that we're going to have borders, or we're going to have a country that we are going to have, that we are not going to let dangerous individuals into our country and then use that as a pretense to take away our freedoms, our liberty, our culture, our legal system. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do it. All right, so this is what this guy says. ISIS lives forever. Allahu Akbar. Allah is greater than your God. He's greater than your culture, and I'm going to prove it because I'm going to make an offering here to this God of death, this cult of death, Allah. And that's what he did. Allahu Akbar. The horrific toll is currently 8 dead, at least 15 injured, 1 child in critical condition. This guy was an Uzbekistan native who had lived in the U.S. for 7 years. He ran 2 trucking companies located in Ohio, some sources say. It's not clear that he's running trucking companies. Most of the I don't know. Most of the reports that I've seen are saying that he was an Uber driver. I don't know. Maybe he's running trucking companies as well. But the guy doesn't speak English. If he does, he speaks just a little bit of it. He's believed to have lived in Ohio, in Florida, and New Jersey since obtaining a green card that enabled him to work in the United States. And he's got a Florida driver's license. He's apparently spent a lot of time in Tampa. And we're going to have Lionel joining us later in the broadcast. He's going to join us in the next hour. He lives very close to where this happened in New York. And, of course, Lionel and I both have something in common with this guy. You know, we're from Tampa. Actually, we are not Uzbekistan Muslims. That's the one thing we don't have in common with him. But we spent time in Tampa, and I'm sure that that Lionel understands what's going on at our alma mater. We both went to the same school, University of South Florida. There is a big activist, radical Muslim community there that's attached largely to that university, CARE and others. A family friend described this guy as calm, hardworking, says ABC News. They described him as calm and hardworking, while President Trump derided him as sick and deranged. So who do you think is right at this point? Do you think his friends and neighbors are right? Was this guy calm and hardworking? Or was President Trump right? He's sick and deranged. And the neighbors really didn't know him. And neither did the people who let him into our country. And that's really the shame. I'm going to go with President Trump on this. The neighbors say that he didn't speak English around them. They say that his wife always wore a full burqa. That might give you a clue as to what's going on. CBS says an Uber spokesman confirmed to CBS News that he was a driver for them. He'd passed background checks. He'd been banned from the app now. So you cannot get a ride from this guy. I don't think he's at large. Uber has been in contact with the FBI and law enforcement about this. They want to know what Uber knows about this guy. But, of course, they say the FBI, this is ABC News. I'm sorry, CBS News. The FBI and the New York Police Department are no doubt looking into his background. You think they might have done that sooner? Certainly the FBI, certainly Homeland Security. And again, CBS News says, oh, he shouted Allah Akbar, which is Arabic for God is great. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Stop putting that lie out. Stop putting that lie out. But here's what you need to know about how this guy got in. And it's from Breitbart. They say this guy entered the U.S. on a diversity visa. Isn't that nice? See, that's one of the reasons that you need to shut down this political correct nonsense, this cultural Marxism. We've got diversity visas now. We don't have enough people who are terrorists. We need to have all groups represented in the United States. We need to have ISIS here. We need to have Islamic terrorists here. We need a diversity visa. And actually, this is something that went back to, drumroll, President Bush. The first President Bush, Bush 41, George H.W. Bush. This was the Immigration Act of 1990. And it was created by Ted Kennedy, all the usual suspects. The bipartisan globalist establishment gave us this, part of the people replacement, and it was just, a diversity visa. And interestingly enough, President Trump and some Republican senators back in August had this as part of the immigration program, saying we got to end this diversity visa program, and they were excoriated by the mainstream press for saying something like that. So he came in 2010 from Uzbekistan. The diversity visa program is a lottery, and you just lost it if you're an American. You just lost that lottery. It gives out 50,000 visas every year to foreign nationals from a multitude of countries, including those with known terrorist problems like Uzbekistan. Also included are Afghanistan, Algeria, Egypt, Iraq, Lebanon, Libya, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, let that sink in, Syria, ISIS, okay, Trinidad and Tobago. So we got, ISIS is Islamic State and Iraq and Syria, right? So we, of course, are going to put Iraq and Syria on the list of people that we want to come into this country because we need that kind of diversity. We don't have enough terrorists. We need more terrorists. Terrorists are underrepresented in the American demographics. Trump, back in August, along with Senator Tom Cotton and Senator David Peru, were calling for an end to this diversity visa lottery. part of the RAISE Act that was introduced in February, endorsed by Trump in August. That would be eliminated altogether. Here's what Senator Cotton said about it. He says, of course, it doesn't serve the national interest. It arbitrarily rewards random foreign nationals with visas to come to the United States. Remember, we have the H-1B visa program. We have the H-2 visa program where they're saying, we don't have enough qualified Americans. We need to bring in people from outside to do menial tasks, because Americans just don't work. We're a lazy lot, and we just can't do the work that they need. That's why all these people are coming to this country because, who built this country? It wasn't Americans. No. The country that everybody wants to flee to, it's not us. We're lazy, good-for-nothing Americans. That's the kind of stuff that Hamdi Ulukaya, the guy who has Chobani yogurt, said. These are the best workers in the world. I'm bringing these people in because they're the best workers in the world. No, they're cheap workers. They're captive workers for him because they don't speak English. He hires translators, and these people are basically captive to him, and then they're subsidized. He's got all kinds of government subsidization for his laborers so he can then sell his Chobani yogurt in school lunch programs because he's buddies with Obama. And then, of course, why wouldn't we let people like him in? Because he's a foreign national, yet he sits on the New York Fed, making monetary policy for us. How's that? But let's get back to the diversity lottery. As Senator Cotton said, it serves no discernible humanitarian or economic interest. It is a policy that has far outlived its usefulness, and it really doesn't even serve diversity, since Europe is one of the primary users of it. Even in the past, efforts at Amnesty First comprehensive immigration reform like we saw in 2013 and 2007, most people agree we should get rid of the diversity lottery. But not the press, not the Democrat Party. They don't stand with Americans. They're still doing their diversity lottery. They're still doing their identity politics. I'm David Knight. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. I'm David Knight. We're going to take a look at the reactions of the press. People like Jake Tapper, James Clapper, the Tapper-Clapper brothers, doing their tap dancing around what's really going on here. We're going to take a look at that. We've been looking at what happened, who this guy is, how he got here, and now we're going to take a look at the reactions of the press. But I have a little bit more to tell you about this diversity visa program that brought this guy to our country, made him a legal immigrant, gave him a green card. Doesn't speak English for the most part. Not sure if he speaks a little bit. His neighbor said they never heard him speak English. They said he was very friendly when he had a family. Of course, his wife always wore a full burqa. President Trump said he was a deranged lunatic. I think I will go with President Trump's assessment of this. I don't think the other people knew him very well. We got a couple of big sales that are still going and some new ones at InfoWarsStore.com. We have two new sales. We have DNA Force now 25% off, big dollar savings with a 25% discount on that. Also, Biome Defense 50, our probiotic, is now back, 25% off. That's got probiotic cultures from 23 different strains. Very important to support your digestion and intestinal functions. We also have Brain Force Plus still on sale, 50% off. I don't know how much longer that's going to last. And we have Silver Bullet, 50% off. That's our colloidal silver. And Winter Sun, our vitamin D supplement, also 50% off. And for a limited time, you can get 16% off Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink. Enter the code at checkout, VITA10. That's VITA10 at checkout to get 16% off of Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink Mix. And of course, that's a way to drink your essential vitamins and minerals instead of taking a lot of pills. Great tasting drink mix. Of course, you can make it taste like anything you want. I love to take things that are liquid, like the vitamin D supplementation and like vitamin mineral fusion drink, because I don't like swallowing a lot of pills. So you can get that now, 16% off with the code VITA10 at checkout. We were just talking about this guy, how he got here, the diversity visa. Let's understand, folks, this guy is the poster child for diversity. The people who died yesterday were sacrificed on the altar of political correctness. Have you had enough? I've had enough. Let's stop this insanity. And of course, the president and some senators introduced a bill to drop the diversity visa lottery program, something given to us by Bush the First and Ted Kennedy. Ted Kennedy's bill, Bush signed it proudly. That goes back to 1990. And people have said it's time we eliminate this. Back in 1995, civil rights icon Barbara Jordan, Democrat Party, said this program does not serve the national interests of the American people. We need to end it. And others have said, according to official statements from the State Department, the program is rife with fraud, in part because application standards are so low. Yes, it lets people like this guy in. This guy who has no discernible job skills. He doesn't even speak English. You let this guy in, and again, as I was saying before the break, we have all these H-1, H-2 visa programs where you say, well, we got to have these people come in to take the job of service workers at Disneyland. We know what's going on. Come on. Stop lying to us. Just tell us what you're going to do and just say, hey, we've got the power. You don't. We'll do whatever we want to you. You're slaves. We're going to replace you with cheaper labor, and we're going to bring them here. We're not going to outsource the jobs anymore to Europe or to Asia. We're just going to bring in people who will work on slave wages, and you'll train them and leave your job at Disneyland or wherever. Because, you know, Americans, you're just garbage. They say the program claims to have strict eligibility requirements, but only calls for a high school education or its equivalent or 2 years of work experience within the past 5 years. So if you had work 2 out of the last 5 years, you can come in an occupation that would require at least 2 years of training or experience. But they say the consular officers have no way to verify any of that. They don't know what this person's education background is. Those countries that they're coming from, they don't have, in many cases, they don't keep records. Certainly not these dangerous countries that are on the list. They don't keep records. They say the consular officers and U.S. embassies abroad are spending an inordinate amount of time attempting to determine if the people are who they say they are. They don't even know who these people are, let alone anything about their religious beliefs or their terrorist proclivities. They don't know if they have education or work experience. They can't verify that. They can't verify their identity. They don't know anything about it. And so when President Trump and Senators Cotton and Perdue introduce a bill saying we're going to get rid of the diversity visa lottery, Democrats go crazy. And mainstream media, NBC News, The New York Times, Politico, Washington Post, slammed the reforms as, quote, hard line and a poison pill. Let me tell you what's a poison pill. The open border, immigration, people replacement that Barack Obama put in, that's the poison pill. It's the poison pill for the American people. And it is a poison pill now for politicians who support that. And I hope that the Democrats don't get this message. I hope the Washington Post and Politico and the New York Times don't get this message, because I want it to be a poison pill for them. Let them wear this. Let them wear this. Let them go down. All right, let's take a look at CNN's Jake Tapper, Exhibit A here. And what he said about Allahu Akbar. Amazing statement. I'll let you hear it.
Incident, our understanding is that according to witnesses who police have now talked to, they're telling police that they heard this driver yelling Allahu Akbar during this incident, which is now leading authorities to believe that this is as a result that this is now a terrorism case. And I'm just getting an update now. The FBI is taking over this case because it appears now that this is terrorism.
The Arabic chant, Allah Akbar, God is great, sometimes said under the most beautiful of circumstances, and too often we hear of it being said in moments like this. General Clapper,
hang on there, hang on. Pause it right there, okay? So that's Jake Tapper. First of all, he says, well, you know, it's God is great. No, it isn't. They'll be the first ones to tell you that Allah is not our God. It's not the God of Christianity. It's not the God of Judaism. Allah is a different God. They will be the first ones to tell you that. And what they're saying is their God, Allah, is greater than your God. And they're going to prove it by destroying you, the infidel. It is not a beautiful thing. It is a taunt that they do at their ceremonies. It's just like death to America that they chant in Iran. All right, so then let's go on. So now Tapper throws it to Clapper. And now Clapper is going to give you the solution to all of this. Let's hear what the lying spy has to say.
You had afternoons like the one that the Director of National Intelligence...
He nodded in agreement. Oh, yeah. Allahu Akbar. That's a wonderful thing,
What goes through your mind, and what are the actions that you're ordering the intelligence agencies to take?
Well, one incident that is very indelible to me that comes to mind was the Boston Marathon attack. And, of course, the first reports, as we've seen here very graphically, always some confusion and inconsistency. One key thing, I think, though, will happen is whether this person was on anyone's radar scope, either the FBI and or NYPD. And then, of course, the question is, well, how intrusive should law enforcement and or intelligence be? And whatever.
Hold it right there. Hold it right there. See how he worked that in? Well, was anybody watching him? Was anybody watching him? And then the question is going to be, well, how intrusive should law enforcement be? This is the guy who lied to the American public, who lied when Ron Wyden asked him, are you spying on the American public? No, we're not doing that. Couldn't look him in the eye, couldn't look the American public in the eye. This liar, James Clapper, is now going to use this, as they always do, to say, well, see, you know, if we just had more intrusive surveillance of the American people, and we just get rid of this whole notion of search warrants for anything, which they have done, quite frankly. Yeah, they're not restrained by anything in the law. They're not restrained by anything in the Constitution, but they do want to have it put in writing. So they have this just kind of like Hayden said when he was talking to the students at Washington and Lee. So I didn't have Section 215. That was such a safe haven. I was doing it on the order of the president. See, now he knows as well as you and I do, if you think about this, that he could go to jail for violating the law. He could go to jail for doing things that are against the law and against the Constitution, strictly on the order of the president. We've had people that's happened to. Just ask the people who work for Richard Nixon, the guy who said, if the president does it, it's not illegal. Well, it still is. It still is. The president, we don't live under a dictatorship. Well, actually we do. But there still is the law there that at some point we're going to have the people rise up and we're going to lock up the people like Clapper and like Hayden who constantly violate the law and then try to convince us that we need to change the law so that they can get amnesty for their criminal acts. We're not going to give you amnesty for your criminal acts. We're going to stop it, and we're going to stop you. Stay with us. I'm David Knight. We'll be right back.